Welcome back to Don't Leave with Mary Crocker Cook. Last time we looked at activating strategies when threatened by abandonment. Today we're going to turn our attention to people who use deactivating or avoidance strategies when faced with threats of abandonment. These are the armadillos in the crowd who always look independent until they allow themselves to try to attach to someone and then they become a train wreck. Now, here's a reminder we're still addressing our second piece of our codependency definition that our anxiety based responses to life can include overreactivity, image management, unrealistic beliefs about our limits, attempts to try to control the reality of others to the point where we lose our boundaries, self esteem, even our own reality. When timely and accurate response to distress is unavailable or met with rejection, our attempts to attach shuts down or deactivates. These deactivating strategies aim to avoid the distress and frustration caused by the unavailability of our caretaker or partner. Shutting down our attempts to connect inhibits seeking support and creates a focus on self reliance. We maybe cling to things or ideas because we find people and emotions too threatening. Why do you think I have so many letters after my name? So, what might this look like in relationships? Well, might be suspicious of another's intentions when they want to know about us. Why do you need to know where I am? You want to put a GPS on my ass? Or it doesn't occur to us that they genuinely might be curious or maybe even like us. We also can assume that others are plotting to control us if they get close. It doesn't even occur to us to ask for help. Being visible makes us feel exposed and uncomfortable, so we don't accept praise or gifts very graciously. It may be that we don't even notice ourselves, and we might even have a lot of self neglect and refusing to let others be of assistance, assuming we'll owe them or there's going to be some kind of tab later. We might have a tendency to interpret questions or asking more for details as intrusive, anticipating criticism and unasked for advice. And by the way, since we see questions as intrusive, we don't ask many. We may have difficulty admitting our needs and wants, so we tend to find excuses to get what we want, like pointing out how what we want will benefit you. And we've always got a backdoor plan B, expecting the relationship to inevitably end. We're the kind of people that as soon as there's a conflict, get on Craigslist to look for our next apartment. Of course, this sets up a self fulfilling pattern because we're never fully in, which can create a distance leading the relationship to crater. You know this if people feel lonely when they are with you. Attachment needs are consequently denied and dependence on others is avoided. A general distancing from distress is achieved through deliberate inattention to emotional vulnerabilities and threats, including suppression and closing off related memories or thoughts. I just don't go there. And if I have to, I want to get back up in my head as quickly as I can. When we start to feel strong emotions, we get up in our head and think about something or distract to avoid feeling out of control. For the avoidant deactivator, staying in my thinking is my safe zone. I have a great illustration of this from my own life. A dear friend of mine was moving and we were going to dinner. As we were driving back to my place to drop me off, I managed to spit out that I was sad that she was leaving and I was going to miss her. And this is because we were sitting side by side, because eye contact in that moment would have been too intense for me. I might have cried or something. God forbid. It's true that avoidant people often avoid eye contact when faced with intense emotion to downregulate our flooding. Unfortunately, this is hard for anxious people who interpret our drop in eye contact as lack of connection. Actually, it's because we are connecting. Anything that would normally activate the system, such as physical or psychological threats to the self, feelings of vulnerability, or wishes for someone's protection and support, is defended against. We suppress it or deny it or counter it with grandiosity. I don't need anything from you. I got this. Oops, here's a psychobabble alert. Brain scans show that people who lack emotional awareness because we've shut down emotionally have lost interconnected neurocircuitry in critical areas. The more emotionally unaware we are, the less activation we show in the brain that's known as the insula, a region involved in interoceptive awareness, how aware we are of our body cues that tunes into what's happening to us in the moment. So if our feelings are defensively restricted and cut off, we cannot access the hormones that warmth and closeness would normally create in us to soothe our distress. So, avoidant deactivators have a tendency to not inhabit their own bodies, not necessarily recognize the emotional cues their bodies are giving them, and then they feel flooded when they do allow those feelings to break through. Unfortunately, that flooded feeling reinforces their tendency to not let themselves get attached. See, I knew letting you in was going to cause a problem, and that justifies shutting ourselves back down. So, at the end of the day, deactivating avoiders like me need to learn to see other people as part of our emotional regulation system, to allow ourselves to be comforted by others who can see and hear us accurately. We crave this actually, but get freaked out at first when we get it because it can almost feel like a spotlight and we feel exposed. Most of our skills are designed for emotional invisibility, to not overwhelm or irritate other people with our neediness. So it takes practice for us to trust that emotional vulnerability will create closeness instead of end it. In our next episode, we will focus on strategies we use when relationships are scary and hard to read. I'll see you then.